Hey, I'm Evs.
And I'm Mish.
And we're coming to you from the land deep down under with a little deep information we'd like to obviously dive into, and something that's been obviously a part of our personal journey, our lives, and that we'll be excited to share with you. We're looking to share with you ideas, concepts, information, all about what's pretty much taking place on this planet right now. Something very special and magical to both our hearts, and it has obviously helped us on our personal journeys to this point right in time, right here, right now. I guess every start has a start to a story, and so our introduction to you guys will obviously be a quick rundown of our personal journey pretty much to this point. What do you reckon?
Sounds good. How about we start with your story?
My story. Well, I want to start my story pretty much, well, not as far as obviously past that 10-year mark, but I think a good little marker to obviously get us to pretty much start understanding a little bit about obviously who I am, and obviously who Mish is, and why we're here right now. But this whole awakening process that we talk about might be new to a lot of you guys out there, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on all of those other social media platforms. The awakening process, the ascension process, is taking part on this planet right now. And we can only speak from our personal journey, all right? So what we experience is what is happening in our life. What obviously you experience is going to be a part of what you your reality, and what you experience in your ascension or your awakening process.
So this is our personal version, and you'll find many versions online. Everyone has their own little spin or their own experience of how it all unfolds. So we just want to really give you our version and share what it means to us, and hope that maybe some of you guys out there can connect with that and start to really identify the things in your life that are creating that transformation and moving you forward.
Beautiful. Which is a very key word. Obviously, Mish and I, we've been helping many people on a transformation process. The transformation process hasn't been so much of a physical process for us. We would like to say it's more of a meta-physical process.
And what does meta?
Meta meaning above physical, or just on outside that physical realm. So I guess 2012 it was a magic year for me. It definitely started to awaken my consciousness and where I am at this point, particularly today. Now, I guess many people say, well, what made the penny drop? When I think back, obviously, to that point in time, there were a lot of things personally going on in my life, on my career, what I was tending to obviously push towards, and I was juggling a couple of things up in the air, not having too much purpose, but definitely knowing that there was something bigger, a bigger picture outside of what I was actually doing at the time. It takes me back to a point in time where I had a pretty bad accident, which I could have easily written myself off, and to this very point today, I still think I may have just been written off a little bit, but I've come back obviously to share this information and be able to help people on their personal journeys. I got out of that car accident, which was involved with a semi-trailer going down one of our major highways here in Australia, and after that point it was like a little bit of a knock on the noggin, because I was unscathed. I got out of that particular accident, maybe a little bit of a scratch, but nothing too much other than that. There was something magical from that point. It was like it was a knock on my door to say, this is the path that we need to start going down on. I was already helping many people getting into the best shape of their lives, as you guys might call out there, a trainer, a coach, a personal trainer, whatever it is. But I don't want to hide behind any label anymore. And as we get into these videos, I guess you'll start to understand, most importantly, what I and obviously Mish mean about not hiding behind that particular identity. As I started to get into the years, I started to really throw myself into particular books. I listened to particular speakers, which you'll find many online, and we'll definitely be providing many links for you guys if you felt like you started to awaken to this process. We'll provide those links down below underneath this video and as we go along. But listening to those speakers, and I think most importantly from my own personal experiences I was starting to have. One I guess I could share also, this little ticket I got right here, which was pretty funny. Now, you know, I've got many religious friends out there. Me personally, I'm not a religious man, but I had this pretty much come in front of me in a lift when I was just finishing up shopping one day, and it was a piece of paper that says pretty much your ticket to get to heaven. And I was like, hallelujah, praise the Lord, my brother. But I always kept that with me because that was a point in my time, which was a moment that I started to receive what you would call synchronicities in your life. And I just started to listen to, like I said, many speakers. I had grown up pretty much in Catholic schools, and not that I'd always really identified being Catholic, but I'd always questioned the belief of Catholicism, and you know, to this very point today, I've been still reading the Bible, because as you get into our videos, you will start to see that the Bible is a very, very amazing tool for all of this ascension process, and to the point now I've started to learn what actually those meanings were in Hebrew. And when you start to actually learn the context of what the Bible was actually trying to portray from those writers back then, it is quite magical. And it's definitely something that obviously Mish and I will be definitely sharing with you guys. But after those points, the car accident, and obviously that particular little ticket to heaven, I started to be not so distracted about things outside of my life. Now, when I talk distractions, or Mish talks distractions, what we talk about is stuff that's out there on the mainstream. For example, things like your television, your radio stations, your
social media, did you say that?
Social media, all of these things out there.
Entertainment.
Sports.
Sorry guys.
All of those things, which had always been a major part of my life and everything that I'd grown up in. Sport has been a part of my blood. And it's only been really the last couple of years that I've really started to understand more, understand what sport and the metaphysics of sport is all about. So I started to have less distractions outside of my life and started to really dip into the books of these ascension processes and the awakening process. And it started to synchronize with everything that was starting to happen in my life. I was listening to guys like the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza, listening to guys by the name of Santos Bonacci, listened to the guys of Dr. Phil Valentine, Bobby Emmett, all these guys that if you jumped online, you'd start to see what I'm talking about here. And when I started to listen to all this stuff and read a lot of these books that we'll be sharing with you guys, your mindset starts to change a little bit on how you perceive your reality and what you're currently living in. The reality that we see, the physical reality, I started to understand and realise that everything that you see out there is not exactly what it seems to be. And when you start aligning to what I've come to learn, your particular purpose, your particular reasoning, or what I say to a lot of our people that we help on their health and fitness journeys, their why or their goals. And when I started to align to my own purpose, all of these synchronicities start to fall in place. And I think that is a real major sign that you start to see along this ascension and this particular awakening process. Now, when I started to read these books, one major book that really started to help me understand what was going on was a book which was called The Lone Star, which is by a guy by the name of Walter Kudregen. And I should have said The Lost Star, not The Lone Star, The Lost Star. And that was one book that really started to open up my mind to, obviously, this ascension process. The book, to give you a quick rundown, talks about a time that we're currently living in that goes around in cycles. Now, when we talk about cycles, we've just got to look outside. Everything is working in a cycle. The seasons out there, obviously, we're in summer here, down under, beautiful time of the year. You have your autumn, your winter, your spring. You have the moon cycle. You have the body clock cycle. You have the woman's menstrual, which was actually called the moonstral cycle. You have all of these cycles, and there was no different to this ascension process, this awakening process that we're talking about. In that book, it explained that our particular star, our particular sun that gives us life to all of us, because without it, we'd be living in pure darkness, there would be no life at all. But that our particular sun lives in a binary star system with a particular star called Sirius. And in the book, it starts to demonstrate that when we come around in that particular cycle with the star Sirius, that binary star system, the human being consciousness or civilization starts to think in a particular way. Now, the Greeks talk about this, all my Greek brothers out there and sisters, the Greeks talk about these ages, the iron, the bronze, the silver, and the golden age. In the Vedics, they talk about the Kali Yuga, these particular ages. There was also a really popular age that was talked about in 2012 when I started to wake up to all of this, which was all based on the Mayan calendar. And I think that might be a good little point for a lot of you guys out there, because when we heard about 2012, it was smoked out there on the media that it was going to be doomsday. What was doomsday?
Well, there's a bit of also making fun of all the religious people who believe in the end of times, saying that that could be the end of times. So it was a bit of a mixed bag of belief systems, but there were many people expecting something to happen, physically something to happen, which did it happen?
Well, we start to see all this stuff, whether you're online, whether you're on the media, doomsday, the apocalypse and all of this. But has it ever happened? Like Mish said, no. Who's the boogeyman out there? There's no boogeyman, all right? the apocalypse, the end of times, the end of the age was what it was about. It was a particular time that it was an end of an age of a particular way that we thought, the cycle of our consciousness. And it is that consciousness that is currently on this planet right now that people all over this planet, and you've just got to type consciousness, you've got to type awakening, ascension online, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This stuff was prophesized. I'm not making it up. And Mish and I will always ask you guys to obviously look and do your own research, start learning from your own experiences, and dive into this information. Because as in the Bible, and I'll keep reciting certain things in the Bible, this is not for all eyes to see or ears to hear. Okay? So, not that that's a good or bad thing. That is just part of your particular life journey. And that's not anything that Mish or myself are going to get in the way of. All right?
So the main thing is, if this resonates with you, if you're drawn to particular things that we're talking about, there's a reason. So it's not just coincidental. You're not just picking up on this stuff because it's the trend, or it's trendy. So there's something deep inside of you. Your spirit is connecting to a deeper truth, which is the journey that we want to take you on.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to come to. This particular time was all about a spiritual awakening. All right, when we talk metaphysical, we talk spiritual. Now, by no means does spiritual mean religious. Religious not meaning spiritual. This spiritual awakening that is swept upon this planet right now. Because I tend to look in the mirror and I see something that is more than that physical body. You are not the physical body. You've just got to look at yourself in the mirror and, talk to yourself without actually opening your mouth. Because that person that is actually talking, that's not physical. All right, and that's just a nice little example, and as we get into these videos, a couple of little tools that we'll share with you. I'm starting to wake up and realise a lot about this, obviously, time that we're talking about.
One more thing, another thing that you can even start to observe in yourself, and females do this a lot. So when you feel, the days that you feel good, you look in the mirror, you like what you see generally, you're pretty happy. But those days you wake up and maybe you're hungover, maybe, you don't feel so good, you didn't get a good sleep. You look in the mirror and you know what? You don't like what you see. You don't feel that you look like attractive or a picture of health or whatever it is. You always pick the things that, criticize. But so those emotions and those feelings within really it's more that inside world that really reflects onto the physical. So you can change the physical from the internal. So that's it's powerful. But when you understand that what goes on inside affects the physical world and reality that you experience, then you're tapping into something very powerful that we all have access to.
That's it, exactly
right. Did I go too far?
We all have access to, that's right. So as you can see, when we start talking about things, we can roll off a little bit track, but please stay with us. We'll always come back around. So when we start talking about this ascension, this awakening process, it's a spiritual awakening, okay? And when I start to think about these things, about my spiritual awakening, I start to think about things like awareness, like balance, like duality, like soul's journey. There's just so many words out there that describe this spiritual awakening. And without obviously flooding too much information onto you guys, we just wanted to give you a quick introduction about obviously what we want to start sharing with our particular journey, and what we could obviously provide you and help you with to any people out there that seem to be waking up to this process, because it is a magical time and it is happening whether you like it or not. It's on this planet right now, and that's what we're about. But I'm going to pass you on obviously to Mish. I want her to share a little bit about her journey and we'll probably do a 360 and we'll come back around and quickly have a quick yarn before we obviously cut the video. Mish, share your story, please.
Part of the awakening process for me, a big part of it, was really starting to let go of these old belief systems that I had been familiar with my whole life. Very deep, based in religious structure, coming from a Seventh-day Adventist background. There were a lot of things that I had to let go of to create new space for these spiritual, new ways of thinking and also living. So a lot of the tools that we were learning along the way really did involve that personal growth, and very challenging at times. So a lot of these things are confronting, a lot of self-work, and then working together as well, which made the journey, which is making the journey a lot easier. So having a connection with somebody else, with community, with friends on the same path definitely helps. We talk about things. When we go home, we don't put a TV on. We watch documentaries, we watch things that are empowering, that are helping to expand our minds further into all this knowledge. So it does take a lot of focus and a willingness to spend time with this knowledge and learn it, because there's so many distractions out there, and it just takes that second to divert your attention to something, and you've lost all this sort of wisdom that you've got. So yeah, it's very important to stay focused.
Awesome. Well, I guess wrapping it up, the big question, why are we doing this for you guys? Obviously providing this creative content on these spirituality motives and themes. The other big one for us is obviously about the planet and Mother Nature, Gaia, Mother Earth, whatever you want to call her. If we just look at it, that she's just received a little bit of an upgrade also.
She's alive.
She is alive, and just like us, she is moving in her evolution as a planet. And we have this pocket, this window in time to work together, not only as individuals, but as a collective, in being able to come from a more positive outcome and be able to go into a direction where we can live more abundantly and more prosperous, not only in one pocket of the population, but everyone together. I mean, it's enough of the fluff talk. It's all over. We all have to work with each other now and be able to come from a place of our heart and be able to help each other through this transition or shift in the cycle that we've been talking about. This pocket, this window that I talk about in time that we have, it's only a really small pocket. And as we explain in further videos, as we get into it and talk to you guys more about this, what they call processional year, then it'll start making a lot more sense in what obviously we're sharing with you guys on our particular platform. So look, we're going to be on YouTube, obviously. We're going to be open up on the social media platforms, on your Insta, on your Facey. So please, if this sounds like obviously a path that you're going down in your current life, then please share, like and comment below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But we look forward to sharing you this creative content. Thank you for listening, and I guess that's over and out from us. Peace.